Hey, it's been a while, been a few days now, but I'm engaged. Hey, it's me, Charlotte. Happy Wednesday. I have a pretty busy few days coming up in my life, and so I wanted to take you along with me. Welcome to a few busy days in my life, studying, writing papers, working on my master's thesis, reading, hanging out with my friends, doing my hobbies, and trying to keep afloat while doing all of that. A vlog. The past couple of weeks have been pretty rough. It's just a lot, and so I've been generally feeling kind of meh in my life, which that's okay. I'm trying to be more intentional in the coming days with how I exist, I guess, with what I do, with making sure I also take some time to be productive, of course, and do my work, but also to pull into myself, give myself what I need. This morning I went to a hot yoga class. It's actually a mix of power yoga and hot yoga, so it's a lot more fast-paced, but I honestly appreciate that, and I love the fact that my instructor, the one that I usually go to on Wednesdays, she focuses a lot on breath work as well and having the poses be deeper and more proper. As for reading, I have to read a few books for my classes, as well as for paper writing, and for fun, hopefully this week I will get to read Revenge by Yoko Ogawa, which is the November book of the month for my book club, Murakami's Jazz Club. It's really short, and it's a book that I've been looking forward to reading for a really long time now, because I read Ogawa's The Memory Police, I think back in 2020, and it was mind-blowingly good. Like, I listened to it in an audiobook, and I really want to find a physical copy so that I can reread it soon. It's a dystopian about forgetting. All of these people who are living in this community, I can't remember if it's on an island or in a city or what it is, but all of them slowly forget different items, different things, and the memory police decide that everyone should forget birds, for example, then everyone forgets them. They'll even forget how they sound and what the word bird means. But within this community, there are a few people who still do remember, and they are in hiding essentially, because if they are caught, that's not good news for them. There's a little sprinkling of an element of romance in there. There's a novel within a novel. It was just so beautifully done, and I think Ogawa is masterful with her writing. All that to say, I'm really excited about Revenge. It's a short story collection that the collection itself is super short, so I'm hoping it's good. It's all about revenge is what I'm assuming. I actually have no idea what the book is actually about. I just know it's Yoko Ogawa, so that's that. But for now, I'm gonna go make myself some lunch because I'm starving, and then I'm gonna work on some of my papers. Yes. a couple books that I'm reading right now for two of my classes that I'm taking this semester. The first one that I wanted to talk about is Let This Radicalize You by Kelly Hayes and Mariame Kaba. I have fallen in love with this book. I feel like it's such a perfect introduction to people who are maybe new to activism and organizing and that type of social justice work, which personally I am pretty new to it. I haven't really been super involved in the past, if I'm honest, but I really deeply want to be more involved in my community and more involved in trying to shape the world that we live in. Let This Radicalize You by Kaba and Hayes is more so almost a handbook of sorts. They both gather all of their knowledge from years and years of activism and organization work and talk about in digestible chapters, almost not so much action items, but tenets to keep in mind when doing this type of work. It's super hopeful, which is something I think I deeply, deeply need. One of their main key ideas throughout the entirety of the book is to not give in to despair, to be hopeful and to remain hopeful despite everything. They have a lot of stories of people coming together to help each other in times of crisis and need. And I think these concrete examples is what helps me move forward in life. I'm nearly done now. We have about another week to go of this. I want to give you a brief glimpse at the chapters. The first chapter is called Beyond Alarm Toward Action. The next is Refusing to Abandon, and then there's Care is Fundamental, Violence in Social Movements, Don't Pedestal Organizers, Hope and Grief Can Coexist. I just think it's a really remarkable book that I know I'm just going to cherish forever and I'm going to return to again and again. Another book I'm reading right now for my class on the Rwandan genocide is actually a graphic novel. It's called Deo Gratias. I'm gonna be honest, this class this semester has been harrowing. Like, there's no other way of putting it. It's been a lot, as you can imagine by the title of the course. We've been reading a lot of nonfiction, fiction, watching a lot of documentaries and movies about the Rwandan genocide and really exploring the depths of that genocide. And primarily, though, we're looking at the ways that genocide and atrocity is represented and how these portrayals of bearing witness are shown to us. So we're moving beyond just the historical fact of the horrific events that happened and more deeply into how survivors, how people afterwards are sharing their stories with us and how we continue to do that work of bearing witness and continuing to share stories and how to grapple with all that. And also fundamentally kind of the impossibility of perfectly bearing witness to an event such as that. On to the fun book that I mentioned earlier, and that is Revenge by Yoko Ogawa. I really like this copy of it. It's super short, so hopefully I find some time to read it. Anyway, right now I am going to be working on the final paper for the class that I mentioned earlier that I'm reading this book in. It's called Latinx Abolitionist Feminisms, and the specific topic that I'm writing about I'm still trying to work through, but I'm just trying to create an outline and bibliography for it for now, and I also need to start working on my master's thesis. few days now, but I'm engaged. I honestly did not expect the engagement to happen last Friday, which is the eclipse that you saw. Yeah, like what a lucky coincidence that I happened to be filming a vlog for this week or these few days and just captured the moments leading up to it, to the proposal. So those clips that you see of me, just me and my partner walking in the park, those were unintentionally filmed in the sense that I did not expect anything big to happen. I just thought it was a walk in the park. So that was just really sweet, and I am overjoyed. And so, as you can imagine, it's been a hectic few days of just letting everyone in my life know about the news. I'm really happy that I got to capture this and to share this now in this vlog, this really big moment in my life. And I'm happy you're here with me to experience it all. I do actually have some book and reading updates though that I would like to share with you, if you don't mind. So last time I talked to you, I was mentioning I was reading these 3 books, so I want to just go through them a little bit. Let me take off my coat, I was too excited. Okay, so the first book that I finished is Let This Radicalize You by Kelly Hayes and Mariame Kaba. And as I had mentioned before, this was a book that I was reading for a class and that I've been taking my time reading. I've been really diligently taking notes, annotating the book. So this is a book that is both, on one hand, a little bit like a handbook of sorts, a tutorial, a guidance of how to try to be a good organizer. I don't really want to use the word good actually here, but I just mean a person who, I don't know, I don't even want to say effective, but maybe effective is the better way of putting it. There is such an emphasis on hope, but not in that sort of idealistic, heavy word of hope, but hope in the sense of, I think they say this in the last few chapters, but hope not as a feeling, but as a practice, that you practice your hope, you train it. Like hope is a skill, and I really like that figuring of hope, because I think it's very easy to fall into cynicism and despair, and keeping on this daily practice of hope and of belief in your community, belief in building, and belief in what you're building, I think is very meaningful and important in this day and age. There's really big emphasis on caring for one another, and there are so many case studies that they offer throughout this novel or throughout this book. Case studies of different organizations that really banded together, or just case studies of groups of people or protests or movements that were built from the ground up in this very non-hierarchical and grassroots type of way. And yeah, I feel like this is definitely going to be a book that I return to again and again throughout my life, just to keep me accountable, but also to keep me in check and to remind me of what I'm doing. And yeah, the next book that I've read for another class was Deo Gratias, A Tale of Rwanda by J.P. Stassen. So this is a graphic novel, and it follows the main character, Deo Gratias, who is actually a member of the Hutu ethnic group that was created, and they were the ones who committed the genocide. The 2 timelines essentially are the moments kind of leading up to the genocide on one hand, and then the moments after the genocide. One of the common questions we're always up against when it comes to something as traumatizing as a genocide is, how do we depict it? How do we represent it in fiction? But specifically, how do we represent genocide pictorially? So how do we make legible the atrocity of the genocide, and how do we make that intelligible too to the person who has not gone through it, right? And so it's interesting too that this book goes through the perspective of someone who did commit the genocide, or is implicated. Yeah, it's just really tough to talk about. It's really tough to read this kind of stuff, but I think it's also a very necessary thing. I do think there is a sense of moral responsibility to bear witness in such cases. The other book that I mentioned, I started, but I haven't gotten very far into it at all, is Revenge by Yoko Ogawa. I love Ogawa's writing and I love the way she represents things, and because this is such a short book and each of the short stories within this book are very succinct. They use very little words to talk about a lot, and so I've only really read, I think, the first few stories. The first story is called Afternoon at the Bakery, and something that really struck me about this, for anyone who has read it, I think I would love to hear your thoughts on it as well, but the story is so full of sensory experiences, but in particular olfactory experiences. So there's a lot about how things smell throughout this story. So like the smell of the bakery, the vanilla warmth, and then also in contrast to that, the smell of death. And I think the way Ogawa in this particular story jumps between times so fluidly. So there's like a present tense, what's happening now, and then throughout this present tense narrative, she inserts flashbacks of sorts into this earlier experience that she's trying to talk about. And I'm trying to say this in a way that doesn't spoil the story for you. I'll leave it at that for now. I'm gonna keep trying to work away at this book for the coming weeks as I try to balance. I have like a lot of other things going on too, because final papers, as I've mentioned, are coming up, and I'm also working on my master's thesis at the same time. So, but yes, very sad things, but also hopeful things, but also happy things in my life. So very mixed bag in terms of reading and life. So I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for reading with me and witnessing both the awfulness of the world, but also the happiness. I hope there are good things happening to you right now. I hope there are good things happening to you in the future, and I would love to hear all about it. See you later.